that we're going live? All right.
No, we're
Oh, they can
out
hear.
there
Oh,
now.
we're live now. Well, all
Yeah.
right. Well, hey, you guys are getting the inside. Look at that.
I know.
So I just don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get any nasty emails. I
I-
will. I usually do. So.
Yeah, it's a little late to ask it. Can we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is recorded now. So
All right.
would we be able to say the company name?
Yeah, I'll say the company. I'll just, but
Okay.
look, but we'll talk about. I'll just talk. Listen, they've built a pretty strong product, and they fly under the radar in terms of announcements, and you just had to see their booth last year at NADA with the robot walking around to know. It was a pretty good sized booth to know that they, listen, you're not doing that if you're startup mode. You're doing that if you got nice investment. So clearly, the Warburg Pincus investment for them. But yeah, I'll talk about them. So they're doing it right. It's the American dream, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll refrain
That's why
from
we all
using
love this
my metaphor.
Yes. But deals like that is like you said. You kind of referenced earlier, Alex. You see deals like that. It's good for all the entrepreneurs and investors in the space because it rises the tide. All the boats rise. So whenever we see companies that get huge valuations or get nice exits or nice investments, it's good because it keeps things going, and it continues. Sometimes we think it diminishes innovation, but it doesn't. It brings more people into the market. It creates more energy. More people think, oh, I can get a piece of that, or I can do something better.
Well, that's a genre of technology that I would argue
yes
can't be innovated any further. It needs to be
I would.
displaced.
I guess I wouldn't disagree with that. Techion's trying to displace it or innovate. I don't know. I mean,
Well, that's a different animal. That's your.
It is.
You're building a full platform with all sorts of connections,
Right.
And that is one way to displace the genre. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I think whether it can be improved upon or not. I mean, they certainly have found something that the market and investors.
Whoop. I usually give a warning there before that. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
As always with you, Cliff, we get deep in the conversation and just time and everything that's going on is just disappears.
Yes. Yeah.
So thanks for coming on. I believe this is your 6th or 7th year closing down Refresh Friday.
Man. Wow. We're getting old, guys. I think we say that every year, but we are getting old.
more grays every year.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, we got Bill Vaughn out there who's already saying that was funny, and glad to see Cliff again.
It's good to be back, guys. It's great to be back.
I think we should let everyone know that the painstaking effort you went through to be here today. So you're on an all-nighter.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much, yep.
And how long ago did you walk in your door from the plane?
It was whenever I emailed you, so it was probably 12:15 or something. It was a little touch and go because we landed and there was a medical emergency on board, so they made us wait until the medical personnel could come on and remove the person. It wasn't anything serious, it didn't look like, so that was good. But so we had to sit there for a little while, and then we were at the far end of the terminal at the last gate. So Detroit Airport, it's that long terminal. So, but we made it. We're here.
So it wasn't bird flu.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for those of you who were listening as we were behind the countdown window, Cliff was starting to talk about some of the acquisitions of 2024. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but why don't we just continue on there?
All right. Sure. So I guess to
Maybe
recap,
backtrack a little bit, but
yeah, I'll recap a little bit. So, a moderate year this year in terms of tech M&A in the retail space. That's probably going to change. We three big transactions that we were writing about in May did not happen. JD Power did not exit, or Thoma Bravo did not decided not to go through with a possible sale of JD Power. Solera trying to get the IPO. They filed for that in May. That still has not happened. And there were rumors, and I think it was mainly rumored that SP Global was considering selling the automotive part, which includes automotive mastermind, Polk, and whatnot, and that would have commanded a huge valuation. But their automotive business is doing really well with that. However, there could be some really intriguing deals moving forward as we go into 25 and 26. Some big plays. Some people have got to get off their rear ends and start thinking imaginatively. But when you think of and we'll get to the big news in a second here, but when you think about the regulatory environment moving forward, the current rate, under the Biden administration, and even a little bit with Trump, we had, a real challenge in getting big deals done. And now I think that some of that's going to go away. So that may open the door to, there was a time, CDK tried to buy Automate years ago, and that was killed. The FTC killed that deal for a few reasons. Some of it was probably driven by the legal challenges with the lawsuits from the vendors and dealers. But some of that was also as competitive. It was the reason given was competitive. So it'll be interesting to see if that goes away. If CDK Reynolds or someone could end up buying, or a Cox. A dealer track could be, could buy maybe. Now, so anyway, we pretty much close out the year with a really one of the biggest deals in our space, and there's not going to be an announcement made, and they do not want to hear this, but I'm sure publicly. But Drive Centric has done a really nice job. The last 2 years, they got a really nice investment from Warburg Pincus, a minority investment, but it gave them a huge valuation in 24, and then this year, recently, a transaction that is, according to my sources, we're well into $1 billion, way north of $1 billion. I'll just be purposely vague, but
so more than eLead.
Oh well, eLead was $550 million. Same with Darwin was $550 million. Polk back 10, 11 years ago was 1.4, I think. Autodata, I think, was 1.1 billion. CDK obviously was 8.5 a few years ago, but that's a different, that's a long established company that's been traded back. Was public, that was taken private by Brookfield Partners. So now, really, you think about a kind of a startup company in recent memory. That's the biggest. That would be the biggest transaction. And I think that bodes well for the space. I think it indicates there could be more large deals down the road coming. But private equity, so it's not going to change their behavior or So I think customers shouldn't be concerned. In fact, it'll probably be good news. It means more development, and certainly more acquisitions, I think. So what it does, it creates another buyer with some serious cash to be able to to come in and start buying adding to their portfolio.
So like buying like dealer on. So if you're drive centric,
Well, I mean, obviously, we all, it's no secret out there that Dealer On is, looking for an exit. Sounds like that one.
I thought Dealer On was acquired not too long ago.
No, that was it was a private equity firm. It was a while ago. They've been looking to create that exit at some point, sooner than later. And Reynolds bought a fleet company, TSD, and that was the biggest deal that they have ever done. And I won't say what the number is, but that was that was an intriguing number. I think we'll see probably Dealerware at some point. There's some intriguing, like I said, some intriguing partnerships potentially moving forward.
So I'm thinking about how you phrase it. And I don't want to put a number in your mouth. But the way you went through the exit numbers for these companies, with the exception of CDK above the 8 billion mark, the next highest one was 1.4. And the way you said it, it sounded like it was somewhere between those two.
Alex, you're pretty smart. You're pretty, nothing gets past you, does it? We'll leave it at that. But,
wow, that's just.
Yeah, I'll just say you're pretty smart.
Jeez, that's insane.
That's.
But I mean, the company with what I think has phenomenal margins too, strong growth. I mean, it's
that growth.
We can we can all talk about the product. I can't talk about the product because I'm not on the front lines using this, using the product. So I have no idea how good the stuff is. And I care about, what I care about is the M&A stuff really, and strategically what it means for our space and for dealers. So, I think, the other deal that was interesting a little bit was Cox or Dealertrack selling off its titling and registration products to our companies to MVSC, or now Vitu is the name. That was a really intriguing deal, but there's a lot going on. You guys see that, social media, all the headlines with champ titles and then the eStart coalition. And all these are really driving innovation on that whole state registration titling process. And there needs to be a lot of innovation there. But that is really one of the last frontiers, I think, for technologically to really get to a true digital retailing. I hate using that term, but the fact is, I mean, it is one of the things that does slow some of that down. And if we get that solved, it's going to make our lives easier for everybody.
Without a doubt, especially Carvana.
Well, true. Yeah, exactly.
Wish I'd bought that dip.
Yeah,
man, don't we all? Jeez. Another one of those Groupon. I mean, it recently hit its again. I think third time each year hit its all-time high in the last few days. And last I checked this morning, it was trading at like $414 a share. It's up 36% this year. Yeah, year to date. So, kudos to them.
Strong. Yeah.
And yep. I'm betting on Ford and Stellantis with my stock buys of late.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so. I mean, we have decades of history, and you're going against you're betting against that history.
Right. Well, it looks like they're way low right now. So
well, they are. That's true. That's true for good reason, though. I mean, Ford can't get its quality together. All right. So the
been
next
here before.
Well, they have.
Yep.
All right. So what else are we talking about?
Oh man.
There's so much. There's so much.
Yes, there is. So let's stay on the acquisition train for a minute
All right.
and talk about multiples. So
Yeah. Yeah. Depressed from where they were in 21, 22. First, absolutely. Um, we're not seeing the sky high multiples of valuations that we did before, and that's been one reason the deals transactions have been down. Um, do they come back? I don't know. Um, there's still a lot of questions about the economy. We saw the Fed's announcement. I believe it was yesterday. I was busy, so I didn't quite see all but I know that the Fed has backed off, which isn't really a surprise when you look at the data, at the economic data. I seemed like it landed like a surprise, the announcements, but I
no, that's been
yeah,
predicted for a
about
while.
yeah. So a lot depends on what the economy does, and there's a couple, two ends of the spectrum. I think some people obviously are very excited about Trump, and I think others are very cautious. And the cautiousness, I think, really stems from the tariff conversation
Right.
that's going on right now. Uh, uh, I think that's my personal opinion is that much of that is probably negotiating and
Yep.
posturing. So
Yeah.
and it seems like people are falling into line and are wanting to work with him. So we will we will see. But again, I'll tell you, um, if I'm a company that or an owner of a company tech in the tech space here, I'm pretty positive or optimistic what the next several months, maybe the next year brings. Next, maybe even beyond that. You got to watch the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got to watch the. But there are things that are very promising. A loosening of the regulatory, and I think that's a given that that's going to happen. I think
Yeah.
it does seem like the Fed is trying to be somewhat intelligent about the rate cuts. It's a fine line, it's a tightrope, but uh, we'll see.
We will. And everything is up for change. And typically, movement and change creates more movement and change. So,
Yes, yes,
however, if I'm a car dealer, I would be pretty excited about my customers getting a significant tax break if these tariffs are to what Trump is saying they'll do for individual taxes. I mean, we've already seen what an influx of cash in the consumer back pocket meant for car sales. So,
yes, yeah. Well, obviously, the conventional thinking is that the EV tax break is going to go away. Um, and I will tell you, we've seen in other countries what happens when the tax break on the EV side goes away. Sales plummet.
so
Uh,
question on that front though, because
yeah.
Elon and Trump are so tight now.
Well, Elon thinks he can weather the elimination of the tax breaks. He's never been in favor of them. So
Yeah. He's
I
publicly
think
stated
he's
that several
right,
times.
right. So I think he's fine at taking that early hit because I think he's pretty confident that he'll be the guy standing. And I've said this a couple times. If I'm an automaker right now, you got to wonder if, at least in this country, you just don't let Musk have the EV market and focus on what we do best. From Ford or GM, trucks, SUVs, and just keep leaning heavily into those. I mean, that's where the profit is, right? Let Musk fight that battle on the EV side. I just a thought.
And hopefully lower gas prices, and we can bring V8s back.
There you go.
That's all you want.
Yep. Diesels and V8s.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Get rid of these turbocharged.
Forced
But no,
ones.
do it. And I talk about, but the question, the big question mark out there right now is China, and I think their economy has a lot of questions, and there's certainly a lot of subsidies and incentives in that market. But they are flooding. They flooded Mexico in the last year or so. They're Brazil, Australia, Europe. Uh, they're coming in hard, and everyone's trying to figure out how to fight. In fact, we talk about we'll talk about the Honda Nissan news merger.
Yeah, we got to get there.
I don't. So, um, Nissan's getting killed. Obviously,
Yeah,
Japan. I
what's
mean,
going on?
This is their third time
well,
in my career they've been
yeah,
in a
yeah,
bad
yeah.
spot.
Right. I
They always come back, by the
certainly.
way.
Well, they do. Well, but, with
With
Renault,
help.
Renault now really slashing its investment. So now they need another partner. Um, I do not think that the Honda Nissan story is going to result in a merger or what would be an acquisition. Let's be honest about it. I think it's going to mirror much of what the Toyota, Mazda, Subaru relationship is, more of an investor, and tying, partnerships and integrations where things make sense. I don't see where Nissan brings any much to the table for Honda. There's too much overlap on the product. A, B, Nissan's got a lot of debt that's coming due very quickly, and I just don't see what, and I don't think that the EV technology that they bring is enough to go through the pain of an acquisition or merger. And Honda historically has never played that game. Now, people talk about Honda being weak on the global stage, which they are. It's not a global player by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's a US play, really, and Japanese. I mean, so, but we wrote 2 decades ago at Wards, we were talking about, we did a whole report on the potential consolidation and should a downturn happen. And we clearly, Honda was one of the points that we talked about needing a partner. And yet here they are 2 decades later with no partner, really. Sure, they've done some stuff with General Motors, but that's just outlier stuff. So I don't believe we're going to see a full on merger here for the reasons that I just outlined. However, now, what's driving this talk is the next question, I think. And if you look at what's going on in Southeast Asia today, BYD and the other Chinese automakers are starting to take a significant bite of the market share, not just EV, but across the board from the Japanese brands. We're talking Thailand, Singapore, we're talking those countries. Um, they uh, it's and that's a very scary thought. And BYD's putting dealerships in Japan now.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah. So you've got to watch. You got to watch those numbers, and I think Japan is realizing we're going to have a problem on our hands. So we need to at least strengthen our OEMs here in Japan at some level,
Mm-hmm.
to help. You don't want to lose an automaker. You don't want to lose an OEM in Japan.
No.
So,
No,
so
that
I
was
think yeah, I think that's driving some of that conversation. The Chinese threat is real, though, no matter what. I mean, it's real. I mean, South America, Australia, I mentioned, certainly Europe. The European automakers are feeling that pain right now, of trying to keep up, or you know, it- you know, there's the analysts aren't saying publicly, but I'll tell you, the analysts are looking at potentially a vastly different world within the next 3 to 5 years in terms of who's partnered with who or who owns which name brands, and China's going to be a player in that space. So so what does that mean overall? I think the next, I think in terms of the next 5 years, because it's kind of a neat closer. You got the end of the decade. What happens the next 5 years? I think all bets are off. And I don't think it'll happen in 25 or 26. Maybe we'll start seeing more of it in 26. Stellantis, we could see things happen quickly, even starting this year. Once they figure out who the new CEO is going to be, that could happen. That could happen quickly. But some of the other plays, Ford, General Motors, we think about in terms of our country, what the relationships look like. I think it's going to be a little bit longer, but certainly by the end of the decade. I have said I think we'll have more clarity. I think I said last year too on this call we made predictions about EV sales or market share, and I'm still holding to my 15, maybe 20%, but I don't see us getting any more than 15% by the end of the decade. We're holding. Yeah, we're holding at 8%. Listen, look at this. The incentives are going to go away, and there's still too much work to be done on the whole infrastructure side.
Yep.
And not just that, but the psychological side. I mean, people have to be willing to pull the trigger on it. Now, I talked to numerous people that buy an EV and they will never go back to a gas. I mean, it's clear these vehicles are phenomenal on a lot of levels.
Well, but I've heard stories of the opposite.
Well,
that people want
to is the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Honda's touting the Prologue sales. My question is, how many of those am I off? I disappeared.
You're still with us, Cliff.
You came back. You're fine.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Good. All right. I want to know how many of those Prologue sales have been to Honda employees.
Mm.
Well, the real question, I think,
the question is that
how many of the EV sales in the past year have been to people who are actually buying EVs instead of a deal?
Well,
most of them are buying a deal.
That's my point.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's
so when the incentives are going, that's going to have an impact.
Well,
I mean, Jeff, how well do you move your EVs?
Yeah, they crawl. I mean, our cheapest EVs on average $80,000. So
right.
We've sold a few, and we like selling them.
Right.
But $80,000 for an EV, and the one we had here, I think, topped at about 120. I mean, you're talking about S-Class money for not an S-Class.
Right.
So, but they drive really nice. I'll give them that.
It is super fun to drive an EV, no doubt about it.
Yes.
That gas pedal is fun to smash.
Just not hear it.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Yeah. And we got Alan Cooper saying that Stellantis has a massive number of EVs in storage across the country.
Yeah, yes, for sure. Yep.
I wasn't aware of this Honda Prologue.
I wasn't either.
The Prologue, it's a GM. It's a GM, General Motors vehicle, actually. But that was out of the partnership with them.
My good friend's a mechanic at the local Honda dealership. We were actually talking about that last night. He's like, you pop the hood, it's all GE.
Yeah. So, but again, I think there's still, that's a huge question that we have to answer, and that has to be answered nationally, globally. And there's all sorts of factors playing into it. Not to mention that, obviously we mentioned it, the Trump administration, China. So stay tuned. I mean, it's going to be one of those periods of time where it's going to be, you need to be brave, you need to be nimble, and
It
and
hasn't
a
been
lot of
that for
luck,
the
a
last
lot
couple
of
of
luck.
years already.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think it's going to get more. It's going to get more because I think the manufacturers, there's real questions infrastructurally about the financial structures at the manufacturer level. So,
Well, so we've hit on we wanted to touch on EVs, and we've definitely done that, and a couple of other things, and the political landscape. And one of the things that I think the Trump administration is promising is less government
right,
overall. So
right.
putting
That's the
it
hope.
back like the Constitution always wanted it. Most of the government exists at the state level instead of the national level.
Yeah, I never understood why people would fight for more government.
Well, yeah, I think there's
And I don't mean that in a DR way. I'm just,
right,
why would
right,
anyone want more government?
right. Well, I think when you look at, let's take China versus the Chinese system versus the U.S. system, and I think there are inherent strengths. I want to be don't I want to be careful how I say this because I'm not espousing communism or anything of that nature, but having a stronger central government that's able to drive development of certain things, including an EV strategy, national EV and national energy strategy, a national, I think transportation strategy, high speed rail, that sort of thing.
We've got the money and the capability to do it.
Yeah,
It's a
I
shame
mean,
that
right.
Well,
Well, but because,
when you're not funding wars all over the world,
well, that's
you have a
true.
little
But right,
extra money to do that.
well, right, but the system allows for that. Whereas here, like so in China, if you want to open a lithium mine, China wants to open a lithium mine, it opens a lithium mine,
Yeah.
right? Here in the U.S., you want to open a lithium mine,
10 years.
you got 10 years of fight, and you may not get the permits because the local municipalities, the state governments have much more power there. So it does limit. So there's strengths on that. I sometimes when I get into these conversations with people, I'm like, you got to choose your poison. I mean, poison's the wrong word, but you got to choose. What do you want? You want more freedom, or you want more and messy? And along with that, the messiness, or do you want, you know, a consistent approach that makes things happen? It's the same thing in the automotive space. We talk all the time. I mean, we all talk about this, and we've been talking about it for years. We need to remove the friction from the space. We need to do this. We need better, we need better movement of data. We need, we need to make it a smoother process. Be careful what you wish for. The only way that happens is if a large player comes into the space and does away with everything, all the other players, and then the dealers are beholden to one or two large players. The innovation and entrepreneurship goes away. And really, the retail model then kind of subsides. Right now, I mean, if I'm a dealer, if I'm an entrepreneur, I want the messiness, I want the craziness because I think I can do better. I can be better than the guy, than the dealer down the street or the entrepreneur, my competitor. I can do a better job, and I want to. So I think to me, and my perspective would be I thrive on that stuff. So.
Yeah.
As we see on the scroll, people keep asking about the Amazon Hyundai deal. You talk about a big player.
Yeah, I was going to post something about that the other day and forgot to. You have any more information around that?
I'm going to continue saying what I've been saying since 2018, and that is Amazon's automotive play on the retail side is a digital advertising play.
Yeah, you've said that.
It's not a retail play. It is a digital advertising play. There's not enough margin for Amazon to come in and really be serious about getting into retail. If they do, I mean, they do away with the dealers, but the margin's not there. Even if they do, I mean, the dealers getting 2%. Let's say it's 2% margin on it. So the money is on the digital advertising, and that's the play. and
I got it.
I think they're learning. Also, they're building the plane while it's in the air still, which Amazon tends to do. So I mean, this thing may not, this thing could go away in in the not too distant future. I mean, Amazon's not going to end up selling cars. I I don't believe
I
that.
don't see it.
Now they could become. I think AWS could become a much bigger player on the whole data side, and I'm not saying a DMS play, making a DMS play, but when you start thinking about the connected vehicle and tying it to the dealership and tying those pieces together, I think Amazon is a player that can make that happen. And probably should be in those conversations. Look, they're part of the Star group. They keep very close tabs. Amazon does, but yeah, to me, I'm not losing any sleep over the Amazon Hyundai deal. It's digital advertising.
Yep.
I can agree.
So, speaking of DMS, so talking about a market that's getting a little shaken up, I guess, and I'm curious about.
Sure.
We saw. Well, let me take a step back. We had an interesting post. Somebody did a video, an ex-V Auto employee who got very colorful.
Well, all right. So yeah, I someone texted me that late that night, and I listened to the first couple minutes and I had to stop. I'm like, this is just painful. I'm sorry.
Well, that's not my point in bringing it up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go on. What's
yes,
your
I hear you. He could have done that much better in much less time. But one thing he brought up, and I had never put two and two together on this, was the Cox lawsuit against CDK, and that was settled. And he was inferring that they were now splitting the hidden costs of the DMS integration fees and whatnot. And I'm kind of wondering. So Techion's now brought a lawsuit against CDK, and
right.
Do you see that one settling and maybe?
No, it's look. We still have this Auto Loop versus CDK lawsuit. They got the judge ruled in favor essentially of Auto Loop, saying it can move forward. The judge in Illinois, it was in what was called multi-district litigation, MDL, for years, and I've covered that ad nauseum over the years. The CDK and Reynolds had settled with everyone. Reynolds had settled with everyone, but Autoloop was still out there. So now the judge granted the right for Autoloop for it to be classified as a class action lawsuit, and it got kicked to the Wisconsin court, back to the Wisconsin court where it came from originally. Man, we're 8 years into this, guys. I mean, yeah, I think I think Techion's in the fight for good. I mean, they're I don't think that this is a settlement play. It's interesting. Reynolds is sitting on the sidelines. I think the Reynolds company of today is vastly different than the company it was 2 to 3 years ago in terms of being an industry citizen. It's a different company, different focus, different perspective. So, and I think it's the right what they're doing is the right. I'm not saying what they were doing before was wrong. It was right for the ownership at the time. He left them with a pile of cash, essentially. I mean, it was probably the most profitable company in our space, and so he left them well positioned for the future. But now it's time to become, to take a much more active role in the industry and less of not I don't want to say less of a focus on profitability, but profitability is not the only thing. And so Reynolds joined Star. Reynolds is and I'm looking far from a perfect company, but I do know that their executive team has a different outlook or on its place in the industry right now. Probably a much friendlier Reynolds and Reynolds than what we saw in the past. So how does this world look? I mean, all right. So the questions, the things we have to watch with Techion. Asbury, does it execute on the Asbury deal? That's the question. Let's go back to 2007, 2008. Dealertrack, same thing. I mean, they were going into, and they were given the Asbury contract back then and couldn't execute. And now, and that set them back a long time. So that's the question for me is the next 12 to 24 months. Yeah, and I will tell you, if I had a choice of dealer groups via large customers, Asbury would not be the one I would want to prove my mettle in this space. That would not be the customer I would be wanting to. Yeah, has to take what it gets what it can. And that listen, they what they've done to this point is phenomenal. So it's phenomenal. Still growing, still learning, but they've got capital, and they've got a lot of big, they got big private equity behind it who are vested interest in seeing this thing succeed. So we'll see how this plays out. But yeah, the big still big question marks there.
Do you see any of the other DMS players stepping up? And
no. I mean, it's Reynolds and CDK and Techion. Yeah. Look, obviously Dealertrack. We'll see what Cox, ends up doing over the course of the short term future with that. They're still a player, but other than that, it's everyone else's. I'm sorry to say that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there at other DMS that are like, telling me to shut up. But let's just be honest about it. It's it's the big three. I mean, a big four. I mean, Dealertrack has to be part of that conversation. But after that, it's there's not much else to talk about. So and no, we're not going to see another player get into this space. Techion's the play.
All right.
But again, I don't know. I think it's a very real question about the execution on the Asbury deal. And look, Asbury wins no matter what happens.
Well, you mentioned earlier that Cox sold off the titling side of Dealertrack.
Yes.
There's been rumors at play forever about them selling off like dealer.com, for example, Manheim.
Oh yeah.
Like
yes. Yeah.
Coming?
Well, I mean, we don't know. I mean, the question I ask though, that there's been very intriguing conversations about putting different players together in this space. It just hasn't happened. Different competitors. So, does it mean it will never happen? No, but it means that it's very hard. Some of the stuff is very hard to do. And Cox is a private company. Well, they are. I mean, they're all private right now. So, I mean, CDK is probably the one that has to that has the most pressure on it to do stuff because of its owner, Brookfield Partners. I mean, yeah, so even though it's not a public company, they still have to operate in a way that what's the bottom line look like? Reynolds and Cox have a different they have much more room and much more breathing room than I think a CDK does. But I think CDK's got to do something big. Personally, I just for Brookfield to get the return on the what it invested, and sure they did a lot of it with other people's money, and laughed all the way to the bank for that. To be honest with you, I mean it was it was a really nice deal. However, for them to get some of the numbers that I'm hearing that they would like to get out there, you've got to go. They've got to go big, and I think they have to take the opportunity that the Trump administration, with loosening regulatory oversight and a completely different perspective on M&A or big companies getting together. I think the next year or two, to me, CDK's got to do something big. You got JD Power out there sitting out there. I don't know. But yeah, I think they're, or it could be, and I've said this for a long time, like if I'm a Salesforce, I'm saying, okay, a CDK is my play. But I've been saying that for several years, and, maybe one year it comes true, but it doesn't mean I'm smart on that. I mean, but for, reasons people are not, the people with the purse strings aren't seeing that as a play. So.
Yep. Well, we'll see if a better economy
That'd be huge.
helps some of that. Yeah.
Yes.
What about the dealer acquisition side of things?
Yeah. Well, it's really not showing any signs of slowing down in terms of numbers. I think the profitability question is challenges right now are huge for dealers. There's a school of thought, and I would not argue with someone that thinks about it this way, that now's the time to get out, to de-risk or de-leverage, your exposure on the retail side. And then you can come back later. Look, we saw that happen in the late 90s with the public dealer groups. Some of these dealers exited for massive amounts of money or stock, and then they held on to a store or two, and then they came back in, and again went at it again, built up other deals. I mean, look, we're seeing Larry Van Tile do that. He exited the sale to Berkshire, and then he's back up to stores in the high teens, I think mid-teens. So he's building another.
Already come back in the New England
area
too. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think now, to me, now's the time. It's not even just about de-risking either. It's about getting the money while it's there, and it doesn't mean you have to leave the industry, completely. Get the money. You take care of your family for generations, and then you can still have your name on the building and one of the buildings, and if you so choose, wait for all the craziness over the next 3 to 5 years to kind of settle down and come back in. If we're still standing, so yeah. So I think the M&A space. If I'm one of the brokers, if I'm in that business, I'm loving life right now, because it's going to keep going. And then on top of that, let's say this. I mean, the people with money, the people that are wanting to play big, they and investors see this also. I mean, there are plenty of people that are investing outside the industry that are investing in dealerships. We have a family office out of Baltimore that's funding both Morgan's growth and Hudson's growth. I mean, we're to a huge, these are becoming really strong powerhouses. You've got some others that are doubling down. You have FE Franchise Equity Partners that's got a bunch of money that they are buying minority interest in stores. Former Goldman Sachs guys that are there, and former dealer and OEM folks that are driving that. But there's a lot of confidence in that space, and rightfully so, because when we talk about the agency, all that conversation that we were having the last last year before. Ford, GM talking about going, maybe agency or, for EVs. And we're seeing that with Volkswagen, with Scout right now. But look what's happening in Europe. They're going away from the agency model. It didn't work. A Honda dealer in Alan Cooper sent me this, I think last week or week before last, but in Australia won a huge settlement against Honda because the profits that they promised, going to the agency model didn't materialize, and the courts ruled in favor of the dealer. So we talked to the folks at NADA and and asked them what their biggest concern right now is, and Scout Volkswagen is the first thing out that they talk about, and rightfully so. I mean, it's NADA's job. They've got to hold the line. They've got to fight that battle. But I'll tell you, Volkswagen, Scout, Volkswagen's going to have to prove in court that Scout is not a Volkswagen entity. That's going to be impossible to do. I think. And so they have to overcome settled law, not judges' decisions, but legislative law at the state franchise, at the state level. And it's not like, people say, well, Tesla was able to do it and Rivian. Well, okay, but they didn't have existing dealer bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Scout, the only way Volkswagen is going to be able to do what they want to do with Scout in terms of going that agency, or not even agency model, but going direct to the consumer, is if they say that Scout's not a Volkswagen entity. Well, you can't do that.
How are they going to do that?
Yeah, you can't do that. So I think there's going to be a lot of, but I think that Scout model at some point in the not too distant future, if Scout survives, the whole Rivian relationship with Volkswagen. I mean, there's a lot of questions here. Why, but I think dealers will be selling the Scout brand before it's over.
Okay. The Volkswagen dealers.
Volkswagen, or maybe they open it up to others. Look, to me, I don't know. I think some of these guys are missing the picture. Like a Lucid, even Rivian. I think they could handpick the dealers that they want selling their product. They could craft what that relationship looks like and what the model looks like. And there are dealers that would jump at the chance to be a Lucid dealer, to be a Rivian dealer, and the manufacturer could kind of control that relationship. And
a bit like Polestar does.
Yeah, and you move all of that risk and all that inventory costs off of your books. I don't know. I mean, it's
that sounds like the duh statement of all.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a friend who she's big into EVs, will never buy another ICE vehicle, but her perspective is, look, I'm done buying, these brands that don't have dealers. You can't get service done. She's like, I'm only buying EVs from a brand, manufacturer has a dealer group.
Blame her.
Selling it.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
yep. Drew Amend's got it right here. Cars don't sell themselves. You need dealers and people.
Yep.
Yep.
How does Tesla even get service? Do they come pick up the vehicle? Do you have to take it? They've got service facilities
both
throughout the United States. You got to take it there, right?
Service. Yeah, they've got service. Yeah. But they have the mobile play too. So yeah, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, sometimes the experience is phenomenal. Sometimes it's terrible. It's just like a regular dealership,
Yep.
So, but listen, Elon Musk figured it out. There's no doubt. He, and it's Elon Musk. I don't think it's anything else. It's him.
Well, Cliff, as we're getting down to the last minutes of the show, I was wondering if there was any.
Wow, it's gone by fast.
Yeah, it always does. But is there anything that you're super passionate about and you'd want to focus on for a few minutes?
Oh my!
Because if not, we're going to ask the the played total, like go into the AI topic, but we might all be tired of that one.
Yeah, we were at, it's funny. We were at the Autovate conference a couple weeks ago, and we got 2.5, 3 hours into the conference before anyone mentioned the word AI on stage.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I guess we can go there. What am I passionate about? Geez, that's a tough question. I mean, we're watching history. Some of us, I mean, I think we're participating in history. What happens over the next few years, I think, is going to dictate what the auto industry looks like going into, the next several years of the, of this century. I'll mention one that I'm watching closely now. The whole autonomous self-driving play.
Oh, you are the Waymo riding king.
I am, and I was in it. I was in one yesterday. Had a little. It had a little bit of a hiccup. A lot of traffic around the hotel I was at, and it had some trouble getting out of the parking lot. But it figured it out. I did call support, and they were monitoring it, and the vehicle was able to figure it out. I think scalability is going to be the question, but this is where Musk is going to have an advantage now, in that on the regulatory side. I think maybe the states are going to be, obviously the states are probably going to be harder to crack, but certainly from the federal side, I think he's going to have a much more open runway to move his FSD and self-driving technology. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. I mean, people that drive those vehicles and ride in them swear that it works. I'm still not. I've been in them. I've seen it work. I'm still a little suspect just because of all the stories out there.
Mm-hmm.
Waymo doesn't have those stories. I've seen that. I've experienced Waymo too at a much greater level. So, question for Waymo is scalability, and that includes getting the vehicles. The more people using the product, you gotta keep pace with the vehicles. That's why you're seeing different partnerships with different manufacturers. Hyundai and whatnot with Waymo. They've got to, that Jaguar relationship just isn't going to cut it moving forward, right? So, but no, I think listen, if they're able to scale, then I think it legitimately becomes a question as to what happens to sales, because long term, because right now I've got 4 cars in our family. I'm going to add a 5th here, in the next 6 months probably. If we had self-driving technology here in Detroit, I would probably get rid of 1 or 2 of those. Certainly, if I lived in Phoenix right now, I would not have that many vehicles. I probably wouldn't have a vehicle, personal driver. I mean, a vehicle. I would just rely on Waymo. So I think that becomes, a question. Is that 5 years, 10 years? I'm thinking it's 10 or longer, but if Musk is able to get this FSD thing through with little hiccups, you're going to we could see a much quicker adoption.
And
scalability.
When people talk about the autonomous vehicle, they just think about their car autonomously driving them from one place to another.
Sure.
What they don't consider, and I know you've been a proponent of the connected things and connected technologies for so long, is they don't understand that the car doesn't have to park. It can continue on driving to the grocery store and having, things put inside of it and
Right.
picking
Right.
up your stuff from UPS and FedEx or whatever.
Sending your kids to
Yep.
school. You don't have to.
Yep.
Right. It changes.
Mhm.
It does change. I don't have to leave work to go pick up my kids from daycare or from, well, maybe daycare, but from school. I can,
That would be a
the
shitty
car
father.
can go to, hey.
Right. You don't need all the right. So it really hurts the trucking industry. It hurts buses. And it could be.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe it hurts buses. Most of the people taking buses in the inner city probably don't have vehicles. I mean,
I'm thinking
listen,
of the
when I
yellow
was in
buses, Cliff. Sorry.
okay, school buses. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
I've got young kids who ride them, so
for
that's
sure.
all I think about now
All right, yeah, okay.
when it comes to buses.
Okay, I'm thinking public transportation in the city
Right.
when I think of buses. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so I mean, we could see a much faster adoption. And Tesla is, look, when I first started riding, I mean, in Waymo, 2,000 rides a week, and now I think it's going to be 200,000 rides a week here pretty quick. So, and that's within a year and a half. So we see how quickly. I think on so many levels. Again, I still say the next 5 years. The next 5 years are going to tell us a lot, I think. I just feel like we're heading towards a crescendo into a inflection. I hate an inflection. Shut up, Cliff. Using these stupid things. But we are heading to a point where at some point we're gonna figure out whether EVs are the answer or not, whether it's or what it looks like. We're gonna figure out whether self-driving is real or not.
You think that'll all happen within the next 5 years?
I think.
Well, you said 10 earlier.
Yeah. I think but I'm just saying that maybe
I think within the next 10 or 5.
Yeah. I think
We'll have a good
Musk. I think the Trump administration is going to force the issue on the two. I think the two big questions: EV and autonomous. And when I say Trump administration, I mean regulatory side on the autonomous, and certainly the tariffs or the tax, for lack of a better term, tax rebates or tax advantages for buying an EV. Those are going to go away. And what happens? So, and then part of that's the whole Chinese question.
Yeah.
Those are the three big questions of our generation right now. Those three. Everything else is noise, in my opinion. Everything else is noise.
Okay. Deep.
Yeah, definitely deep thoughts to end the year of Refresh Fridays.
And I didn't have to talk about AI. Look at that.
It's implied that it's part of the autonomous vehicle. How's that?
Well, it is. For sure. And then a couple of other things that I think are fascinating about that conversation too is Google's, recent, I think last week, the launch of the quantum, or the advancement in the quantum computing. I have been saying since 2016, true self-driving autonomous driving at a mass scale does not happen without serious advancement on the quantum computing side. It's going to take real quantum computing to be able to pull that off and to scale that quickly. So with that in place, I think that or with those advancements, I think it does help us move the ball down the field much faster. So absolutely, there's an element of AI there. I just don't know where. I'm just very skeptical about all the AI conversation in our space right now.
You gave me a whole new theory on where the drones are coming from now, Cliff. It's they've opened up the quantum realm with the new computing system.
that portal is
Yep.
hovering over the Atlantic Ocean somewhere, off the eastern seaboard.
Yeah, it's that mothership you can't see.
Yeah. No. Listen, yeah. Well, a lot of things to think about. It'll be interesting to see what we talk about next year.
In the year after, right?
Are we going to see you guys in New Orleans here in a month?
This might be the last one I can get away from.
Wow. Okay.
So
I'm not going.
Yeah, I've done a good job of being able to dodge NADAs after decades. So
It's been a
I
good
don't even-
6 years for me.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I know, hard to believe.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. It is. Wow. So I guess I won't see you guys. All right.
No, maybe next year or the year after.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Cliff, it's always a pleasure, man. We really appreciate you coming and wrapping up the year with us.
It's always fun.
For sure.
Yes.
Well, everybody.
Big holiday, big Christmas plans?
Oh man, no, we're quiet.
Okay.
We
Same.
how about you guys? Yep. Same.
Keep it quiet. Yep. Not a lot of travel.
I mean, who wants to leave Vermont in Christmas too, Alex? Right? I mean, that's like
Exactly.
the quintessential Christmas.
Well,
stay out, Burlington.
I've got some young kids, so we got a
Yeah.
big morning,
Yes.
and then
Cool.
a lot of assembly. Yep.
That's always the fun part.
Well, we want to wish everyone a very Merry
Yes.
Christmas, Hanukkah,
Yes. Merry Christmas.
and New Year, and anything else in between.
Perfect.
That's right. Great. Well, you guys take care. Have a
Maybe-
wonderful holiday and New Year.
You as well.
You too, Cliff.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.